चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to our Saturday and Sunday morning series on the Sri Harinam Chintamani. In the last class, we were discussing, if you remember, quite in detail about the Chit Vaibhav, the Achit Vaibhav, and the Jiva Vaibhav. The Chit Vaibhav is the Lord's abode and the spiritual world, and the Achit Vaibhav, that is the material energy or the Maya Shakti, is which is you know which is after this Viraja river, which consists of this 14 planetary system, and which is also called as Devi Dham, sorry. And it is made of these eight elements, and there are these 14 planetary systems as uh, Thakur is mentioning. He names the 14 planetary systems, and then he goes to this Jiva Vaibhav, and the Jiva Vaibhav is Chid Anuswarupa. It is tiny spiritual particle, and they are unlimited. And they are the spiritual potencies of the Lord. And what is their dharma? They are always seeking happiness. Now, within this Chid Vaibhav, within this Jeev Vaibhav, Bhaktivinoda Thakur classifies one, those who are liberated. They seek happiness in Krishna's association and Krishna's happiness, and they are Krishna's associates, and they are the liberated souls in the spiritual world. He is not speaking here about the liberated souls in the Brahmajyoti, because he is very clear here. Krishna Parshad, they are Krishna's eternal associates who live with Krishna and who take happiness in Krishna with Krishna. And then he speaks about the Bad, Va Bahirmukha, those who seek happiness independent of Krishna and they stay in this material world, you know, and they are put in this Devi Dham, and they attain material bodies which are made of Maya. And because of Papa and Punya Karma, they are having this gross and subtle bodies, and they wander in this 14 planetary systems in search of happiness. And sometimes they go to Swarga, sometimes they come to hellish planets. And like that, in these 84 lakh species, they are wandering. So this is what is called as Sambandha Gyan. So this Sambandh Gyan is very, very important for us to understand. We saw this. Krishna has a Swarup Shakti, Chit Shakti. There is the Chit Vaibhav, there is the Jeev Vaibhav, and the Maya Vaibhav. Chit, Jiva, and Achit Vaibhav. That's what, terms Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses. And then we saw how uh, the Sambandh Gyan is that first is Ishwar, he is supreme independent consciousness. He belongs to the Antaranga Shakti of the spiritual energy by which the Dham, Nam, Rupa, Guna, and Leela manifest. Then there is the Bhairanga Shakti, which we just now discussed few of the verses. It is Prakriti, it is dependent on Krishna, it is unconscious, it is made of 24 elements and the 14 planetary systems. And then he spoke about the Jiva Vaibhav. These four verses, 34 to 40, speak about the Jiva Vaibhav. The Jiva Vaibhav is the Tatastha Shakti. It is Chid Anu Swarup, same in quality as the Chit Shakti, but Anu particle. They are infinite with number, infinite in number, and they are with free will, and they have a capacity for unlimited bliss. And within this, there is the Muktaji, the liberated souls who seek pleasure in association with Krishna. And there are the conditioned souls who seek pleasure independent of Krishna. They stay in Maya's realm, they are caught in pious and sinful activities, and they reside in gross and subtle bodies, rise to Swarga and to hell in these 84 lakh varieties of species. So now Bhaktivinoda Thakur establishing this Sambandha Gyan in these verses, Sambandha Gyan of what is Chid Vaibhav, what is Maya Vaibhav, and what is Jeev Vaibhav, how these conditioned souls who are seeking pleasure in this material world can ultimately go back to their Swarupa. So now that discussion we started in the last class. So in the last class, after explaining this is the theme. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in verses 41 to 42, he says that even though these jivas who are seeking happiness in this material world, wandering in these 84 lakh species, but Krishna is very, very merciful. Tatapi Krishna dayamai. Tatapi Krishna daya. Krishna gives mercy to them. Tumi vibo, tumara vaibhav jiva hoy. Dasera mangal chinta tumara nishay. The you are the Supreme Lord, and the individual souls are your potencies, tumara vaibhav, jiva. And you always think of your servants' welfare. And that what you do, dasa yaha sukamani kare anveshana tumi tata kripa kare vitarana. You kindly bestow whatever happiness your servants seek. So the jiva nature is to seek happiness, and it can seek happiness in the material world through material pleasures, or it can seek happiness in Krishna in the spiritual world. So Krishna has this quality of always giving pleasure to the jivas, be it material or spiritual. Now, the next theme, which starts now, today's discussion we are going to begin, is from text 43 to 48. Prakrita Shubha Karma Kanda, auspicious material activities, Karma Kand. Now he is going to speak how these jivas who are there in this material world can be slowly, or how Krishna progressively elevates them ultimately to the spiritual world to seek spiritual happiness. So let us begin now. Text 43. मायार वैभव अनित्य सुख छाय तुम्हार कृपाय से अनायास पाए. By your mercy, the souls who desire temporary material happiness, anitya sukha chai, the Maya Vaibhav, who are stuck now in this material world, Tumara Kripa, by your mercy, say anayas pai. Anayas means very easily they can attain material happiness. So the jivas who want material happiness in this world, they can easily attain because Krishna is Vada Dayamay. Krishna always wants the pleasure of his part and parcel. So this is the supreme compassionate nature of Krishna. Stay sukya prapta upaya, shubha karma yata, nirmale dharma yagya, yoga homa vrata. So, in order to seek this material happiness through auspicious karma kanda, that is, there is a dharmic way of attaining sense gratification and there is a adharmic way. Today in Kali Yuga, practically the entire whole population in this world wants to attain happiness in a dharmic way, which straight away leads us to hell. But those who were living in the Varnashram few hundred or thousand years back, everyone was dharmic and everyone wanted also sense gratification. So, in a dharmic way, we can attain this material happiness. And what is that? How Krishna facilitates that? You created dharma, hmm, yagya, yoga, homa, and vratas, which are auspicious activities, Shubha Karma. Say Sukya Prapta Upay. To attain that happiness, Shubha Karma Yata. You have created auspicious activities, Nirmale, that bring material happiness in the form of Dharma, Yagya, Yoga, Homa, and Vrata. So, this is how Krishna gives happiness to the conditioned souls who want material happiness. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur further explains about the futility of these material auspicious activities. Sej sab shubha karma sada jadamai chinmay pravritti taha kabuna milay tahar sadhane sadhya jadamay fal uchaloka bhoga sukha tahate prabal. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur says these auspicious activities are all material. Say Sabha Shubha Karma Sada Jadamay. These are material auspicious activities. The Karma Kanda are called as material auspicious activities. They are material, they are not spiritual. This is one point we should have clear understanding about. They are not spiritual. Chinmay Pravritti Taha. Kabuna Milai. They are not completely spiritual. So let us see what is the footnote here. Here, dharma means varnashram dharma. So the word dharma was mentioned here. So what dharma actually means is varnashram dharma. Yagya means sacrifices like the Agni Stoma Yagya. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna mentions these Agni Stoma Yagyas are done in order to attain heavenly planets. Yoga means Ashtang Yoga and other yogas. Homa means Havana Yagya and other such ceremonies. Vrata means Darsha Paurnamasya. So Darsha Paurnamasya, again Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita 9.15 explains that these are special yagyas to attain sun planet, moon planet. So this is, what is all mentioned in the Karma Kanda literatures. So Darsha Paushamasha and other vows. Shubha karma means Ishtapurta. Ishtapurta means whatever you desire, you have specific yagyas in the Karma Kanda so that you can attain those desires. And other like auspicious activities. All these auspicious activities are meant to be performed at specific times, in specific places, using specific implements. So this karma kanda yagyas, in order to fulfill our material desires of attaining swarga, attaining heavenly planets, all these have very stringent rules. One is they have to be performed at a particular, you know, nakshatra, astrology. Astrology actually be, the real uh, use of astrology in the Vedic time was to find the right time to perform that yagya. and it has to be done in a holy place. So there are many holy places where these karma kanda yajnas are done so that they give the results. And all the ingredients which are used in the yajnas, they should be very pure and auspicious. And the mantras also should be chanted very stringently. Even if there is one flaw, immediately the result will be counterproductive. So that is how futile are these karma kanda yajnas. And in comparison to that bhakti, there is no time, there is no place, and there is nothing called as something inauspicious. Even if the heart is contaminated with lust, one can practice bhakti. So that is the purity of bhakti. But this is the flaws of this karma kanda. Although Lord Vishnu is said to be the master of these activities, Yagneshwar, these activities are not directly spiritual. Without performing direct spiritual activities, the living entities cannot understand the Supreme. So in this Karma Kanda, Yagya means Yagya Vai Vishnu. Yagya is meant for Vishnu. So these Karma Kanda activities, although they are performed for Yagya, but they are indirect. They are not directly spiritual activities. So here in the slide, I have pointed out this very important concept which uh, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning. Tahara sadhane sadhya jadamay fal. He has said jadamay fal. Ucha loka bhoga sukha tahate prabal. So the karma kanda yagyas, these terminologies, what is sadhana and what is sadhya? The karma kanda is dharma as varnashram, yagya, agnistom and other yagyas. So this is the sadhana we perform. And what is the goal? Material enjoyment in this world and higher worlds, heaven. In the Karma Kanda, the sadhana is deliberation on Upanishads and Vedanta philosophy. That is their sadhana. And the sadhya is what? Liberation. In the Upasana Kand, especially Bhakti, the sadhana is chanting. Taramade Sarvashresht, Nama Sankirtan, Niraparada Namalay, Pai Premadan. So, among all the limbs of bhakti, the chanting is the most supreme of all the limbs. And what is the goal? We attain Krishna Prem. So, we continue to chant. It's not that in the spiritual world we stop chanting. That chanting in the spiritual world is completely out of pure love and devotion. So, once Srila Prabhupada was asked in an airport, uh, what is this Hare Krishna movement? This Hare Krishna movement is meant to chant the holy names of Krishna and to attain the goal of Krishna Prem and to attain the spiritual world. So the reporter asked, being bewildered, so what we will do in the spiritual world? Prabhupada said, we will continue to chant in the spiritual world. So this chanting is, the sadhana as well as the sadhya. But in Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, the sadhana and the sadhya are not same. So this Bhaktivinoda Thakur will again bring out later on in the coming verses. So this is a very important concept we should understand with respect to sadhana and sadhya. We do the sadhanas in this world, the Karma Kanda sadhanas, and in the next world, we just enjoy the fruits of the pious activities what we have done. We do the sadhana of deliberation on the Upanishads and the Vedanta and do extreme austerities, and then in the spiritual world in the Brahma Jyoti we are merged in the impersonal Brahman and experience Brahmanand. So there we don't do these same activities, whereas the bhakti activities, be it hearing, chanting, worshipping, all the nine limbs, we continue to do even in our sadhana stage, in bhava bhakti stage, prema bhakti stage, with more intensity, with more purity, more perfection. And in the spiritual world, we continue to do this. So there is no change in the sadhana and the sadhya. Only the change is one in the practice stage and other is in the perfected stage. So this is very important for us to understand about This term Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses sadhana and sadhya. Svai sab karma bhoga nahi atma shanti tahate prayasa kara atishaya bhranti. Enjoying the results of these material actions. Say sabha karma bhog. One cannot attain spiritual peace. Nahi atma shanti. Atma will never be peaceful by enjoying material happiness. The jiva is spiritual by nature. And even though the jiva, if he by performing karma kanda goes to the heavenly planets and enjoys heavenly pleasures, but still it is material. And the jiva being spiritual cannot be happy with no amount of material happiness. What to speak of Svargaloka? Even the happiness in the higher planets like Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, Brahmaloka, even that can not give happiness to the spirit soul. That's why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravritana Arjuna. Mam upeti tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. So even if you go to the Brahma Loka, still we have this body made of these material elements. Maybe there are finer material elements there, but still the jiva cannot be having Atma Shanti. The endeavor to attain material goals is a great mistake. Tahate prayas kara atishay bhranti. It is a great illusion, bhranti, or a great mistake. So this karma prayas to attain material happiness is a great bhranti, illusion. So that is what is the futility of karma kanda. So the Vedas are compared to a bridge. They connect the soul from the material world to the spiritual world. So the bridge extends right from the material world, from here we are where we are, and it goes up to the spiritual world. So when the bridge is up till heavenly planets, to attain the heavenly planets, it is called as karma kanda. And when the bridge goes to the Brahma Jyoti, it is called as yoga. It can be Gyan Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, by which we can attain impersonal Brahman. But when the bridge reaches Vaikuntha planet and Golok Vrindavan, attains the lotus feet of the Lord, that bridge is called as Bhakti Yoga. So Karma Kanda is the Vedas which bridge the soul from this world till only heaven. And heaven is part of this material world. So that is why it cannot give Atma Shanti, and pursuing such Karma Kanda is Atishaya Bhranti. Svei Sabha Shubha Karma Upaya Haya Anitya Upe Sade Loka Sukha Diya. By performing these auspicious material activities, Shubha Karma Upahaya, one attains only temporary material pleasures. So here again there is a footnote. Here the word material pleasures, Loka Sukha, refers to the pleasures of Swargaloka and other higher worlds. Pleasures that are all temporary. Anitya asukam imam prapya bhajaswamam. Krishna in the Gita 9.33 is saying that the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, they can practice bhakti to me. Hmm? Understanding anitya, that this everything in this material world is temporary, anitya asukha, and they cannot give us happiness. So these are all material pleasures. Spiritual pleasures are different. So spiritual pleasures are only available in the spiritual world. So that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur in these verses from 43 to 48 explains this karma kanda, the karma kanda by which we cannot attain uh, auspicious material activities, karma kanda. Now 49 and 50, he explains the way to rise above karma kanda. So how we can rise above this karma kanda, he explains in two verses. So let us go to those two verses. So any questions you have, you can always raise your hand. So the next theme, 49 to 50. Sei avastha hoite uddhara upay. So how, you know, in this condition of karma kanda, how to rise above that condition of karma kanda? Kabu yadi sadhu sanga jani te se pare ami jiva Krishna das yaya maya pare. If by associating with devotees, Kabu yadi sadhu sange, he understands Janite se pare. What he understands? Ami Jiva Krishna Das. I am a pure spirit soul, Lord Krishna's servant. Then the soul can cross beyond the realm of Maya. Yaya Maya Pare. So, because those who are performing these karma kandas and enjoying in this world and even the heavenly worlds, ultimately from the heavenly planets, they have to come down here. Shine Punne Marte Loka Vishanti. So, like that, performing pious activities and enjoying this world, slowly, because they are leading a dharmic life, if they come and touch with a sadhu. Now, here the word used by Bhaktivinoda Thakur is sadhu. This refers to a pure devotee of Krishna who's practicing Shuddha Bhakti. So, when they come and touch with such a pure devotee who's a sadhu, and hear from him that although I'm dharmic, although I'm performing all the dharmic activities, but still I'm not happy, atma shanti is not there. And when he hears the instructions of the sadhu that you are a spirit, part and parcel of Krishna, and you can only attain happiness by practicing bhakti yoga. So ami jiva Krishna das. So when he understands this knowledge, then the soul can cross this maya. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the fourth canto, there is the life of Maharaj Prachin Bari. Maharaj Prachin Bari was a very dharmic king, and he was executing lot of karma kanda yagyas. But still, he did not have knowledge of pure devotional service. And in order to elevate him, to rise him above the condition of karma kanda, Sri Narad Muni appears. And Narad Muni instructs Maharaj Prachinabari. So here is an example from the Bhagavatam how one who was at the level of karma kanda was elevated to pure devotional service by association of sadhu. Now, what to speak of karma kanda? Those who are pious, who are dharmic, even somebody who is an outright sinner, who doesn't practice any dharmic activities, the most sinful of sinful souls, if they come in touch with a sadhu, they can be immediately elevated to the highest platform. That is the glory of bhakti. And the example is there of Mrigari. Mrigari was such a sinful person that he was half killing. He was a hunter, he was half killing the animals. And why was he half killing the animals? Because seeing others suffer, he was getting happiness. Parasuka dukkha. Paras dukkha sukhi. Seeing others dukhi, others unhappiness, people, feel happiness in this world. So this was Mrigari, and because of him coming in touch with Narad Muni showing compassion, he was elevated to the highest platform. So this is a very important point, how dharmic people, karmakandi people can be raised to the highest level. Here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning. So there is one question. So let me take it up. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, your question is regarding the Karma Kanda and attaining heaven. But interestingly, Prabhuji, in the Bhagavad Gita 6.41, where Krishna is telling that Prapya Punya Kritam Loka Nishishva Shashvata Sama Suchinam Srivatam Gehe Yogo Brashtopajayate. So in that verse, Prabhupada translates it as the person who has practiced bhakti, if it is incomplete, he will also go to the heavenly planets and he will enjoy there. So, but the devotee is never practicing that bhakti for going to heavens. So, how the karmakanda result is been awarded to him, Prabhu?
Okay, I got your question. It is very clear. So I'll just repeat here for the audience. So in the Bhagavad Gita 6.41, Krishna says, Prapya punya kritam lokam ushitva shashvati samam suchinam srimatam gehe yoga brashta abhijayate. So this verse in the sixth chapter has to be understood in the context. Here Krishna is not speaking about karma kanda activities. There are, I will show you the slide. It was supposed to come very soon, but since you have asked this question, it's important here. This devotees, many devotees, mistake this, and it is very important that we understand. Yes, yeah. So there are these three types of sukritis. The karma unmukha sukruti, that is merit coming from pious activities. They enjoy the fruits of one's karma, that is swarga. So this is spoken in the second chapter and the third chapter of the Gita. Now in the sixth chapter, when Krishna is speaking, he's speaking about transcendentalist, be it the Gyan Yogi or the sixth chapter which is dealing with Ashtanga Yogis. So they acquire by their spiritual practices Jnana Unmukha Sukruti, merit coming from the cultivation of knowledge or merit coming from the cultivation of Ashtanga Yoga. This kind of merit they acquire, Sukruti, this is different from the Karma Unmukha Sukruti, which only takes us only to heaven. So by this kind of activities, spiritual practices, spiritual sadhanas, the Gyan Marg or the Ashtanga Marg, here Krishna in that chapter is speaking about a Ashtanga yogi who has only practiced little bit Ashtanga yoga. The goal of Ashtanga yoga is liberation. The goal is completely spiritual, if you see. Whereas the goal of Karma Kanda is Swarga. It is not spiritual. So there is difference between the Karma Kanda activities, pious activities, and the activities of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So these activities are still superior to the pious activities of Karma Kanda. And the goal is liberation. So that is why if a yogi has practiced a little bit and he has deviated, so what does Krishna do? Krishna fulfills his desires by taking him to the heavenly planets, and he attains those heavenly happiness. Now I'm speaking about Ashtanga Yogi here, but he comes in this world, Papya Punya Kritam Lokam, Ushitva Shashwati Saman, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe. So this Ashtanga Yogi is born in the family of Ashtanga Yogis or in the family of great Gyan Yogis. And for a Bhakti Yogi, he will be born in the family of great pure devotees. And he will continue this Ashtanga Yogi, whatever practices he has done in his previous life, whatever credits he has attained. Suppose he has practiced 10% of Ashtanga Yoga in his previous life. In the next life, he continues from that 10% ahead. Gyan Yogi also, he will be inclined to the Gyan Marg in his next life, and he will search a sadhu in the Himalayas to further continue his Gyan practice. And a Bhakti Yogi also, he will be attracted to Bhakti Yoga, and he will, look for a sadhu who is a Bhakti Yogi. So their, pursuits will continue. In this verse, it has been explained. But those who have performed these pious karma kanda activities, when they go to the heavenly planets, Shine Punne Martyalokam, their punya gets completely exhausted. And when they come to Earth planet, they have to again what? Start working, start acquiring credits of karma punya in order to attain pleasures in this world or in the higher worlds also. So that is the difference between the two. So here in the sixth chapter, when Krishna is speaking about this verse, he is referring to spiritual goals which are transcendental. He is referring there. That is why Prabhupada uses the word transcendentalist. So the karmis, jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas, among the four classes, the karmis are not called as transcendentalists. Only the jnanis, yogis, and the bhaktas are called as transcendentalists because their goal is spiritual. The karma and the the jnana and the yoga, Ashtanga yoga, the goal is liberation, impersonal liberation, which is a spiritual goal. For the bhaktas, it is the spiritual world. That is also a spiritual goal. So that is the difference between the two. Is it clear?
So Prabhuji, so it means that you are mentioning that in the context of Krishna speaking Ashtanga Yoga, but Prabhupada writes it as devotional service. So for devotee also, can we
I
understand
told
that?
you it is very clear. I told you it applies through all three class of transcendentalists. It applies to Gyan Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, as well as Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada, you know, is very merciful and compassionate to us because we are taken up to the path of bhakti. He is exclusively explaining all his purports from the bhakti angle. That we should understand.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, any other questions till now? What we discussed? You can raise your hands. Okay. Uh, in 7.5, the living entities are superior energy of the Lord. How is it entangled by the inferior material energy and affected by the modes of material nature? So yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has answered this. Although the jivas are chid, anu, they are chid, they are spiritual particles, but they are anu in swarupa. And the Maya Shakti is, although the inferior energy of the Lord, still because being anu in particle, they are not vibhu like Krishna. And the Maya Shakti, they become overwhelmed by the Maya Shakti. And what is the reason they become overwhelmed by the Maya Shakti? It is because of the desire to enjoy. So, Srila Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives the example like we have experience when there is fog, you know, when there is a huge thick fog, we can't even see ourselves, and the fog can completely engulf us and completely bewilder us. So although the fog seems very, fine and tiny, and it's not so powerful, we feel, but so is the covering of the fog that we completely get enamored and bewildered, and we cannot do anything about it. But this fog uh, can be completely dissipated by the sun. With the rising of the sun, the fog completely evaporates and it's completely invisible. And then the jiva, the living being, is illuminated. He can see everything. He can see himself. He can see the whole universal manifestation. So that is how Maya Shakti is. Maya Shakti, although it is inferior and the jiva is a superior energy, still, it becomes, the jiva becomes overpowered by the material energy. This is because of his desire to enjoy matters. And that is why the Maya covers him. And this is how, because Maya is also a Shakti of the Lord, and it is the Jiva's desire to enjoy independent of the Lord. So Krishna, out of his mercy, covers the Jiva by his material Shakti, by his Bhairanga Shakti. So this is how we should understand it. In that verse 7.5, it is mentioned, Ye dam dharete jagat, you know, aparam itastu anyam prakritim vidyam me param jiva bhuto mahabhavo ye dam dharete jagat. So jiva bhuta, the living entities, they are mahabhavo, they are superior energy of the Lord, mahabhavo, that is said. But what attempts? Ye dam dharete jagat. But they want to enjoy this world. Dharete jagat means actually they are trying to hold this world. So the example, very sarcastically, what Krishna is saying is, it's like the prisoners trying to control the prison house. So the prisoners are bound in the prison and they are being put in the stringent laws of the prison. But the prisoners think that we are controlling this prison house. We are the superintendent of this prison, and everything is functioning in this prison by my, arrangement. So that's why, it is a mental asylum for the soul, Sometimes people go mad and they're put in the mental hospital, and they start thinking that I am the president, and they start behaving like that. So this is the bewilderment of the jiva who wants to think that I'm an enjoyer. Yedam dharete jagat. So this is sarcastically Krishna saying there in that verse. The prisoners thinking that they are running the prison house. So this is because of the desire of the jiva. It is because of the desire of the jiva to lord it over matter that the external potency, although the inferior energy, covers the superior energy jiva. That is one. Secondly, it is anu, and that is why it can become covered by the uh, uh, inferior energy of the Lord. And the Lord is Maya Dhish. He is the controller of Maya, but the jivas being Anu, they can become Maya Vash. So this is how also Chaitanya Charitamrita explains. So let us now go to the next verse. So now how these people, these jivas, these pious karma kandis can be elevated is mentioned. Se virala phala matra sukrite janita tuchya karma kanda nahi karila vihita. That rare result is obtained only by performing very pious deeds. So what is this rare result Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking is of sadhu sang, by which we get bhakti sukriti, bhakti unmukh sukriti. This rare result is obtained by performing very pious deeds. This very pious deeds refers to activities of devotional service. The petty pious deeds, tuchya karma kanda nahi karela vihita. The petty pious deeds prescribed in the karma kanda part of the Vedas will not bring it. So the karma kanda pious results will not bring the jiva out of this material world. It cannot cross the realm of Maya. But the very pious deeds can make us cross the realm of Maya. So here was this discussion, which I just now in the question answer discussed here. So there are three types of these sukrutis. Karma unmukha sukruti. These are Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning as petty pious deeds or merit coming from pious activities. And the result is enjoy the fruits of one's karma in Swarga. The Jnana Unmukha Sukruti, the merit coming from cultivation of knowledge, one attains liberation. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the term what he has used here is what? Very pious deeds. So very pious deeds here refers to Bhakti Unmukhi Sukruti, merit coming from devotional activities. One develops firm faith in unalloyed devotional service. So when we come in touch with a sadhu, and because we are distressed, we are not Atma Shanta, because of although practicing dharmic life, karma kanda life, varnashram life, and we serve the sadhu, we ask the sadhu questions, the sadhu bestows his mercy. All this is accumulating what? Agyat Sukriti, what we call. And by this Agyat Sutri and the knowledge given, slowly, slowly we develop faith, Shraddha. And this Shraddha is the faith of the soul. And that is why that Agyat Sukriti will mature into Shraddha, and with the sadhu sang further we will associate with the sadhu and hear the sadhus, and we'll start performing bhajan kriya. And when we start performing bhajan kriya, we are accumulating what? Bhakti Unmukh Sukriti, which will ultimately take us to the spiritual world. So in the Bhagavad Gita 7.28, it is mentioned, Esham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam drida. So Krishna is used the word, punya karmanam. So this punya karmanam in 7.28 should be understood not karma kanda activities or jnana kanda activities. They are bhakti activities. Bhajante mam, it is used, the word 7.28. Esham tu antagatam papam. How we can become free from all sins? Bhajante mam drida. You should do my bhajan with drida. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to 17, the same term has been used. Shrunvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana ridhantasto hi abhadrani vidnoti surit satam. Shrunvatam swakata Krishna. Shrunvatam swakata Krishna means what? When we hear uh, Hari Katha, about Lord Hari, Shrunvatam swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. Punya Shravana Kirtana means what? Here, Punya refers to devotional activities. They refer to the Bhakti Unmukh Sukruti. So, acquiring spiritual credits. Spiritual credits here, I call it as Bhakti Unmukh Sukruti. So, here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who has used this word, you have to clearly understand the difference between very pious deeds and petty pious deeds. Petty pious deeds refers to karma unmukha sukruti, and very pious deeds refers to bhakti unmukha sukruti. Now, this devotees have to have a clear distinction, uh, and especially sometimes devotees, when there are health problems or when there are problems in their spiritual life, sometimes they consult astrologer and the astrologer says that, oh, maybe there is some this dosh or navagrah dosh. And if he has faith in that and he performs some, yagyas in order to get relief from it, that means he is performing some karma unmukh sukruti. So these are not spiritual activities. In fact, by doing such karma unmukh sukruti, his bijas of karma will start sprouting in the heart more, and his faith in devotion might come down. His faith, maybe he might become free from those problems in life, but what is going to happen? His faith or faith of the soul in devotional activities will come down. So this is one very important danger in spiritual life for the devotees. It is there. Of course, no devotee will perform any Gyan Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. That is very clear. But there is chance of performing these kind of activities. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when the Bhakti Lata Bij is being discussed, you know, uh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions that when Shravanadi, Jal is say Sechan, by Shravanadi Jal, this faith, this Sukruti, Agyat Sukruti by which we have got Shraddha, we should nurture it. The creeper should grow by Shravanadi, by performing devotional activities. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says that there will be upashakas. There will be many other upashakas which will also grow along with the Bhakti Lata Shaka. So we see that we plant a tree, mango tree, along with that down there will be some other creepers also. So these upashakas, one has to uproot them. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions that these upashakas look very similar to the Bhakti Shaka, Bhakti Lata Shaka, and one should be able to distinguish. So sometimes, devotees might mistake the activities of karma kanda to be the activities of spiritual activities. Both look similar. One should have firm faith in devotional activities. One should have firm faith that whatever distress or happiness I'm experiencing in my spiritual life, they are all given by Krishna. They are meant for my purification. Once a devotee takes up to spiritual life, he is no more under the purview of the law of karma. You know, he is neither experiencing the distress of his previous sinful activities, neither he is experiencing the happiness of his previous pious activities. Once he takes up to devotional life, whatever distress he is experiencing, it is directly given by Krishna for his purification. Whatever happiness he is experiencing, is directly given by Krishna so that he can progress in Krishna consciousness. Everything is completely under the control of Krishna. So this faith one should have, and never, uh, because of some difficulties in spiritual life, take shelter of these karma kanda activities. Because if we take shelter, we are instilling, or we are putting faith in those activities. And when we put faith in those activities, those karma, bijas will start growing, and they will start growing, and the lata bij will be stunted. Its growth will be stunted. So this is a very, very important thing which devotees should understand while practicing their spiritual life. And with this respect, in the in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, when explaining the different angas of sadhana bhakti, tat kripa ikshanam. Tat kripa ikshanam means always expecting the mercy of the Lord. So there, Rupa Goswami quotes this beautiful verse from Lord Brahma's praise, Tatte anukampa shushukshamano bhunjana eva atmakrit vipakam. So what is the attitude of the devotee when he experiences suffering in this life? He experiences them as Krishna's mercy. A beautiful purport is written to that. Jiva Goswami and Vishnu Chakra Thakur have given a very interesting understanding that one should have. Of course, that is a elaborate class, but very interestingly in that purport, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur mentions, Krishna, you are like my father. Just like the father sometimes embraces and kisses the son, so you give happiness to me in devotional life. Just like when we do kirtan, when we go to the holy dham, we hear nice Krishna katha. And sometimes the father slaps the son. So sometimes you give distress to me in spiritual life. So you are like that father sometimes who makes me drink milk, and sometimes you make me drink the neem juice, kadwa juice. So the milk is like happiness in Krishna consciousness, and the kadwa juice is like the distress we feel in Krishna consciousness. So you know what is best for me, and whatever you give, whether it is milk or it is neem juice, whether it is embrace or whether it is slap, you know what is good for me. So I just accept it, and I continue to do my devotional activities. So that should be the mood and attitude of the devotee, one who has taken up to this bhakti path. One should have firm faith and allow the bhakti lata to grow by the process of devotional service, and never take shelter of any of the uh, karma kanda activities to elevate his distress. To in fact go to the heavenly planets, nobody will do a karma kanda yagya. But sometimes when devotees are in distress, sometimes they can take shelter of this path. So that is why it was a warning. So that's why I discussed a little bit in detail. Any questions regarding this? Anyone has any questions regarding this? Everyone is clear about it? I thought there will be a lot of questions regarding this point which I discussed. Okay, now how the karma kandis get elevated when they come in touch with the pure sadhu. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained. Now how those who are the Jnana Kanda path, how they can be elevated, Bhaktivinoda Thakur starts explaining from verse 51 to 53. Jnana Kanda Brahma Laya Sukha. Jnana Kanda, the happiness of merging into Brahman. Arayani Mayara Yantrana Matra Jani Mukti Labha Yatnavan Tini Hoya Jnani. So who is a Jnani? First he gives a definition. A person who becomes aware that Maya brings only suffering. Arayani Mayara Yantrana Matra Jani. They realize that if I do actions to enjoy in this world, even though they are dharmic actions, they bring only suffering. And this, after many, many, many births of doing karma kanda activities, one realizes that actions with the desire to attain heaven, with the desire to attain happiness, although they are dharmic, they only bring suffering. Then he becomes a jnani, and therefore, who therefore struggles to attain liberation is a jnani. Mukti labha yatnavan tini hoy jnani. Then he attains, oh, I don't want this material place is a place of suffering. Any actions which we do will read as reaction, whether it is also a pious reaction in the form of heavenly enjoyment. So ultimately, I'm caught up in this cycle of action and reaction. So better now, let me better now let me, you know, uh, get liberated from this material world. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha anudarshanam. So this is the Jnani's perspective. He sees this material world, there is this suffering, you know, birth, death, old age, disease, and then he wants to get liberated. He is a Jnani. Now he says, Sei sabalokera jana tumi dayamoy jnana kanda brahma vidya diyache nishay. How Krishna is dayamay to such Jnanis? For the sake of these people, say Sabalokara Jana, that is the Jnanis, merciful Lord Krishna gives the philosophy of Brahman. Krishna, who is Dayamay, gives the Jnana Kanda scriptures where there is Brahma Vidya given. Brahma Vidya refers to especially the Upanishads. The Upanishads are meant, to transcend this material world. Hmm. So there is a very interesting saying, you know, when one is in the Grahastha ashram, in the Brahmacharya ashram, one goes to the Gurukul to learn the Vedas. So when we want to learn the Vedas, we go to the Gurukul and we start reciting the Vedas. And that portion of the Vedas is called as the Samhita portion of the Vedas. And in the Grahastha ashram, there are the Brahmana portion of the Vedas. This is not something to do with the, Brahman, who is in the mode of goodness. So these are basically the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. So if one wants to live a family life and enjoy in family life and he has to fulfill a lot of desires, so he will do Karma Kanda activities. So being staying in the family. So if one wants to live in the village and in the cities and enjoy life, so he refers to the Jnana Kanda or the Brahmana portion of the Vedas. After having lived his grahastha life, enjoyed in this world, pious life, then at the age of 50, he starts contemplating, oh, there's only suffering. I have to get out of this world. So then he starts referring to the Aranya Kanda portion of the Vedas. So the Aranya is referring to, forest. So that division of the Vedas, which speaks about how to go, leave the family life and go to the forest and perform tapasya, and start understanding knowledge about this world. That is the Aranya Kanda or the Aranya portion of the Vedas. And the Upanishads speak of getting out of this world, getting out of this world and going to another world. So the Upanishads are called as Brahma Vidya, which deal with how to get out of this world. So the Jnana Kanda part of the Vedas. So Upanishads deal how to get out of this world, how to go to the Gurukul by reading the Samhita portion, live in the family life, the Brahmana portion, go to the forest, Aranya portion, and the Upanishads, how to get out of this world. So this is how the divisions are. So Bhakti is completely different. Bhakti is very, very unique. Sei Vidya Mayavad Kariya Ashray Jada Mukta Hoya Brahma Jiva Hoylai. The souls who take shelter of Mayavad philosophy, say Vidya Mayavad Kari Ashray, merge into Brahman. They become one with the impersonal Brahman. They attain a stunted kind of liberation. Jada Mukta Hoy, Brahma Jiva Hoy Lai. Lai means they become one with the impersonal Brahman. So, what is this stunted kind of liberation? Bhaktivinoda Thakur has used the word. So, just to give you a hint and understanding of what this stunted kind of liberation is, in the material world, this is called as the Bhavasagar. The Bhavasagar, where we have this material body and we are trying to enjoy in this Bhavasagar. It's like an ocean with lot of sharks and crocodiles. So we are trying to enjoy, but we have been caught and beaten by or eaten by the crocodiles and the sharks, and we are changing one body another body and suffering in this world. So getting out of this world is like, you're free from the gross and subtle body. The soul is free from the gross and subtle body, and he's sitting on the bank. So this is a stunted kind of liberation. But there is a spiritual world. There is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where we get spiritual body. And in that spiritual body, Krishna also has a spiritual body. We have loving reciprocations and we can experience spiritual happiness. So this stunted kind of liberation means The soul doesn't have a material body, both gross and subtle, nor he has a spiritual body, but he is experiencing happiness, Brahmanand, because we cannot imagine what is Brahmanand. Becoming free from the miseries of birth, death, old age, disease, and no material body at all, no gross and subtle body. The kind of happiness the soul is experiencing at that level is called as Brahmanand. So that is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses the word stunted liberation, because he doesn't have a spiritual body where he can reciprocate with Krishna and experience, spiritual happiness. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, uh, Rup Goswami gives some, idea of what is spiritual happiness, the happiness in devotion. He says if somebody for half the life of Brahma, Dviparardha, Brahma life has, Dviparardha, 50 years is called as one Parardha, and other is called as, 50 years is called as Dviparardha. If one is, in Brahmanand for half the life of Brahma, still it cannot be compared to a drop of happiness in pure devotional service. So that is the kind of happiness which is there for the jiva to experience in spiritual bodies in reciprocation with Krishna. So one of the qualities or characteristics of pure devotion in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is what? Sandranand Visheshatma. Sandranand means condensed spiritual bliss. So this is only experienced in Prema Bhakti. So as sadhakas also, we are experiencing happiness in spiritual life, but the real happiness comes in Prema Bhakti when we can experience rasa in relationship with Krishna. And that is, that cannot be compared to Brahmanand even to a drop. The Bhakti Anand or the Seva Anand, what is it called sometimes? So there is one question here. Yes, Prabhuji? Maya Narsim Prabhu?
Prabhuji, I had a question, but after your explanation, I got clarification.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let us go now. He explained about Brahmananda. Now let us next theme, after explaining this happiness in the impersonal Brahman, 54 and 55 explains what is this Brahma. Brahma Vastu ki. What is Brahman's nature? Say Brahma tava anga kanti jyotirmoy virajar pare sthita tate hoy loy. O Lord, Brahman is the effulgence of your body. Anga kanti jyotirmay. Anga kanti jyotirmay. It shines on the farther bank of the Viraja river. So it is in the farther bank of the Viraja river, the impersonalist merge into it. It is the impersonalist who merge into it. So this is what is Brahman. Brahman is the effulgence coming from the Lord's body, which is called as Brahmajyoti. And there is also a question asked, and I will answer that question with respect to this discussion only. So Brahman is impersonal Brahman, Brahmajyoti. So there are two types of liberation, and especially, what about the Paramatmavadis or the yogis who also meditate on the Paramatma in the heart? They also attain impersonal liberation, it is called. So what is that then? So there is a subtle difference which is brought out in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There is two types of liberations. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in respect to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, liberating Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya from the Mayavad conception. There is Ishwar Sayuj and Brahma Sayuj. Brahma Sayuj means the impersonalist Jnanis merge in the impersonal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman is a light, and to give you some understanding of it, like you have seen huge chandeliers, there are chandeliers, and there are many bulbs in it, and they illuminate the entire hall. So what is impersonal Brahman? The Jnanis, they are also like, spirit souls, and they go and again, one bulb is again fit there, and he also shines there. So that is how we can understand the impersonalist, the Gyanis merging in the impersonalist Brahman. Whereas Ishwar Sayuj is the yogis who meditate on the Paramatma, they attain Ishwar Sayuj. They go and merge in the body of Mahavishnu, and they remain there. So that is called as Ishwar Sayuj. So although Gyanis are considered superior to yogis, but Brahma Sayuj, Ishwar Sayuj is considered very, very, deplorable compared to Brahma Sayuj. Why? Srila Prabhupada gave this example in one lecture. He says, suppose a child comes out of the womb of the mother and experiences extreme distress in this material world. And he tells his mother, Mother, I have suffered in this material world. Please take me back in your womb. So, back going in the womb of Mahavishnu is called as Ishwar Sayuj, and Brahma Sayuj is merging in the impersonal light. Sei sab asure Vishnu karena samhar tahara oi sei Brahma yaya maya par. The demons killed by Krishna also cross beyond Maya and merge into Brahman. So what the Gyanis attain by Jnana Sadhana and attain the impersonal Brahman, even the demons, this is the mercy of Krishna, even the demons also attain the same position. So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there is evidence given in the Brahmanda Puran. Siddha lokastu tamasa pare yatra vasantihi siddha brahma suke magna daitascha harina hata. Siddha lok, that is the spiritual world, is beyond Prakriti. This also was mentioned here in the verse. Viraje pare. It is beyond. Siddha lok is beyond. There, Tatra, demons killed by a lord, Daitascha Harinahata, some sages, Siddha, even the demons and the Siddhas dwell, Vasantihi, merged in the happiness of Brahman. Brahma Sukhe Magna. They are absorbed in the Brahma Sukha. So, what destination the sages, the great Gyanis attain, even the demons in Krishna Lila attain that same destination. This is the mercy of Krishna. Okay, now the next theme, it's almost 8:25. So let me see. There are only two verses. So I will take these two verses then. The souls who have turned their face away from Lord Krishna. Krishna, Bahira, Mukh. कर्मी ज्ञानी उभय ए कृष्ण बहिर्मुख कबू ना आस्वादे कृष्ण दास सुख. The karmis, materialist, they are pious religious materialist, we should understand. Sometimes devotees say, outside people also, these karmis are engaged in sense gratification. So there are materialists who are also called karmis, and there are karmakandis who are called as pious materialist or religious materialist. So here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking about the pious religious materialist who perform karmakanda. So the karmis and jnanis, impersonalists, have both turned their face away from Lord Krishna. Krishna Bahirmukh, they never taste the sweetness of service to Lord Krishna. Kabu nah aswadaye Krishna dasa sukha. Bhakti Unmukhi Sukruti. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur had previously described, but now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking about pious activities leading to devotional service, and these pious activities are called as Bhakti Unmukha Sukruti. Bhakti Unmukhi say Sukruti Pradhan Tara Phala Jiva Bhakta Sadhu Sangapan. Devotional activities performed by the one who is eager for devotional service are the best of the pious deeds. Their fruit is that the soul attains association of devotees. Sadhu Sangha. So when we come in touch with a pure devotee, sadhu, and we serve him, we get Agyat Sukruti, which matures into Shraddha. And when we start performing devotional activities, we are acquiring Bhakti Unmukh Sukruti. These are the best of the pious deeds, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. Here is a footnote. Pious deeds are of three kinds: karma, jnana, and bhakti, devotional service. The first two brings the fruit of work and the attainment of impersonal liberation. Karma Sukriti brings on, Swarga, Jnana brings on liberation as their results. The last kind of pious deed brings faith in pure devotional service. To the unknowing, the activities of pure devotional service seem to be ordinary pious activities. So that is why, I made a clear distinction between ordinary karma kanda activities and devotional activities. The devotional activities also look very similar to karma kanda activities because both are activities, actions. Both look dharmic, but pure devotional activities are springing from the faith of the soul, Shraddha. This Shraddha seed which is sown, this is the faith of the soul. And the activities of devotional service, like Shravana Kirtan, are directly the activities of the soul. So this is, the chart. I already showed you this chart, but this is, we should understand this clear distinction of the Bhakti Unmukh Sukruti, the devotional activities. So with this, what happens? This Shraddha, with this faith we attain, we are associate more with sadhus. Those are pure Vaishnavas who are practicing pure devotional service. And we perform bhajan. And slowly, slowly, what? We acquire Bhakti Unmukh Sukruti. And with this Bhakti Unmukh Sukruti, we perform bhajan kriya. And slowly, slowly, what happens? We attain firm faith. We attain firm faith in devotional service that is called as Nishtha. And Srila Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and in Vyasatmaka aka Kurunandana 2.41 he quotes Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Sudruda Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. What is Shraddha? Sudruda Nishchay, firm faith. Naishtiki Shraddha. What? Shraddha Shabde Vishwas. Vishwas means having firm faith. Sudruda Nishchay. And that faith is very determined. Krishna Bhakti Kaile. If I perform Krishna Bhakti, Sarva Karma Krit Hoy. I did not do any, Karma Kanda activities. I did not do any Devata worship. I did not do any prashchit for, for the Devatas or for any other thing. What is happening? I need not do any Shraddha ceremonies also. I need not do any Karma Kanda activities. Just by executing devotional service, I clear the rin for all the Devatas, Pitras, everything I clear. So this kind of faith we should have in devotional service. So this is very important for us to understand. Yes, Krishna Path Prabhuji. This is one question we will take up and wind up.
Hare
What is the
Krishna.
question?
Dandavat pranam.
Yes.
Prabhuji, the pious activities which result in increase in faith of devotional service, are the Gopas the example of that? Because there is a verse in Bhagavatam which says Kruta Punya Punja, means these Gopas are playing with Krishna because they have acquired a lot of punya.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So there, Sukhdev Goswami is referring to Kritak Punya Punja Lokam. They have performed devotional service. And in their previous lives, this is referring to especially the sages whom Lord Ram met, the Dandakaranya rishis and the Sruchi Stari, the Shruti Chari gopis, the Vedas personified. So, in Krishna Lila, there were, some pure souls who performed sadhana in their previous lives and they attained Prema Bhakti and they were given an opportunity to participate in Krishna's pastimes. And two references are there in the Bhagavatam, that is the Dandakaranya Rishis, the Rishichari Gopis they are called, and the Shuchichari Gopis. So there the pious credits refers to they have performed so much bhakti and accumulated so much pious spiritual credits, bhakti unmut sukruti, that they attained prema in their previous lives, and because of that they got to chance to participate in Krishna's pastimes. So there it refers to the bhakti unmukha sukruti.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So tomorrow we will continue and further systematically Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to take this subject to higher and higher levels. You know, the whole discussion, again, we should remember, is the question of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as to how jivas can anayas easily, you know, attain, you. And systematically, step by step, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going and developing the subject. So after we finish some of these verses, then we will go back and have an overview, and then we'll understand the whole flow, what is exactly happening in the discussion of Sri Harinam Chintamani. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Sri Harinam Chintamani ki jai. Hare Krishna.